Welcome to Techstination. Joining us is Jefferson Wang, Accenture's Global 5G lead. Thanks for joining us, Jefferson.
Right. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, before we get started talking about consumers and 5G and what this can all mean, give us a little background about Accenture and its role in 5G here.
Yeah, absolutely. So Accenture's a global management consulting company that works on strategy, technology, and operations. And the role that we're playing in 5G right now is really helping clients plan out that course for what 5G deployments look like, what are the ways to actually build the right use cases, and ultimately monetize 5G.
Well, let's talk about what consumers might expect from 5G technology. Most people don't know a whole lot about it other than, hey, they're selling some phones that are going to run faster than the previous generation, but there's more to it than that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to 5G, I think it's important to think about a couple things. One is from a network perspective, not all 5G is created equal. There is spectrum in the high band frequency that can go really fast because there's a lot of that spectrum available, but it goes really short distances. Then there's a sub-6 or a mid-band of spectrum. That's a really good combination of capacity and coverage. And then there's kind of a low-band spectrum, which is more where traditional cellular has worked. And that can go really far distances, but the speeds aren't the same as this high-band spectrum. So I think from a network perspective, you'll see people successfully deploy all three layers of this so you can get the coverage and capacity. And I think you brought up a good point. When it comes to devices, we're going to start with providing smartphones, and it's really a speed tier that we're focused on. But we're going to move to a divergence of devices. So if you think about in the 3G days, you had a flip phone, you had a laptop, and you had an iPod for your communications, your productivity, and your entertainment. In the 4G world, we converged that to a rectangular slab that is the smartphone. In the 5G world, we're going to continue the smartphone, but we're going to start to see new devices start to take away connectivity, compute, and storage capacity and start to break away from just the smartphone as the device we can look forward to.
What kinds of devices do you envision here?
Yeah, you're already starting to see this trend happen. This next 10 years will be kind of this divergent trend. So, for example, your smartwatch that you already started with, the Gen 1, depended on your smartphone. Now the fourth, fifth generations of smartwatches have their own connectivity. They have their own storage. They have their own compute power. And you can go on a run, and you don't need to bring your smartphone with you for that emergency call or text message. So we're starting to see those pop up. You're starting to see more head-mounted displays. As we bring compute power closer to you, that becomes more valuable. So you'll see more of these wearables come into play. And we're starting to see many more devices connected around us. So an internet of everything, if you will.
Can 5G replace our cable modems and other ways to connect to the internet at home and in the office?
The exciting thing about 5G is we have the opportunity to converge the mobile network as well as your home broadband network. And that convergence allows you to do a lot of different things. One, certainly you can rely on one authentication, and that gives you freedom. So that allows you to actually seamlessly transition from a mobile environment into your home and back out. Can it replace? There's the opportunity, certainly, to replace. But certainly there's the opportunity to actually reach people that didn't have a strong broadband connection before. So in more rural areas, in more parts where it was very expensive to kind of dig up the land and get that wired connection to the homes and that last mile. So 5G does provide an opportunity where we can actually close that gap.
And speeds would be comparable. People do a lot of streaming 4K video, et cetera, today.
Yeah, if again, as we had talked about, dependent upon the actual type of 5G. So if it's in that high band spectrum, it's very comparable to wired connections. And I think that's an important point, that speed is a tier right now. When you combine kind of the mobile and the broadband at home, we've always kind of judged that on speed. So from a home perspective, it's always been a speed tier. In the mobile perspective, you always paid for a megabyte or a bucket of these megabytes. And now we're going to kind of converge that into one currency, if you will. But you'll also start to see new currencies that comes up. So with 5G, you'll start to see responsiveness or low latency come up as a tier. And then you'll start to see a tier potentially around how many devices you can connect. So in 5G, you can connect about 10 times more devices than you could in 4G.
And the pandemic that we're going through now has had an impact on all this and the need for connectivity in more places. Tell us about the impact.
Yeah, Fred, that's a good point. You know, we wrote this book, 5G Future Home, we ended the project around January 2020, and that was before the global pandemic. And when you look at some of the actual trends and consumer mindsets we were highlighting, we found that COVID really accelerated those trends into the home. For example, now we're working more from home more than ever. We are having to educate our kids at home. We're having to entertain more at home. We're even having to visit our healthcare provider from home in these instances. So in those situations where it's actually put a new focus on the home and almost made us redefine what the home is.
So you're working with clients, companies. Tell us who you expect to be some of the leaders here.
Yeah, it's a good question. When you think about the future home and 5G, these are all team sports, and we feel like there's an opportunity for these communication service providers who are your wireless carrier, your cable provider, like you mentioned, your telephone company. They really gained a lot of consumer trust during this COVID time. And as a result, they had the opportunity to be this team captain, this orchestrator, somebody who can actually recruit the best players onto their team, somebody who is able to have everybody work together towards a common goal, and somebody to potentially share the right information so that we can achieve those goals.
Where can people go, consumers go, to get more information on what you're doing and your vision here for the 5G future home?
Yep, you can go to Accenture.com/5G future home.
Again, is Accenture.com/5G future home. Accenture is ACCENTURE.com. Jefferson Wang, thank you so much for taking the time with us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Now this. How many companies out there have continued to innovate when it comes to building a better radio? I'm Fred Fishkin, host of Techstination, and I'm here to tell you about the new CC Skywave SSB radio from the wonderful people at C-Crane. Bob and his crew really love radio, and it shows in this new compact model that is packed with features. Beyond great AM and FM reception and sound, you can tune into shortwave signals from around the world, listen to ham radio operators, aviation, and more. It's the radio you'll turn to every day, and in emergencies. It will run for nearly 3 days on just 2 AA batteries. Pair the sleep timer with the new Soft Speaker 3, and you've got the perfect radio for your nightstand. Of course, it can wake you up too. Click on C-Crane at Techstination.com and put in the code Techstination for a free flashlight with your order. They love radio, and you'll love C-Crane.